Hi guys, TheHande here. So, I've been making a lot of analysis videos of characters from the Mega Man series, the Castlevania series, Heroes of Might and Magic, but I realized that I had never actually made a video talking about my favorite video game characters, so today I'm going to talk about 4 characters from some of my favorite game series, and because it is my favorite game genre, these are all going to be characters from platformers. I will be presenting what are my favorite characters in the Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, and Donkey Kong series. I was considering also including a character from the Castlevania series, but I just couldn't really nail down a character that I liked enough to actually present here. And I also need to stress that here I am sticking strictly to characters who have appeared in the games and not in any external media, like comics or cartoons or whatever. So let's start with the Mario series. First of all, just to talk about the aesthetic of the Mario series. Out of all the series I'm going to talk about today, Mario has by far the most consistently good character designs, and because of this, I'm pretty sure almost every Mario character has a fan somewhere out there. No matter how obscure, these characters are all just so lovable looking that it's easy to find a favorite, and there really are no badly designed Mario characters out there. It might come as a bit of a shock to some people then to find out that my favorite Mario character is actually Wario. Now, why Wario? Well, when I was younger, I did have this fascination with the idea of the doppelganger, or evil double of a main character. But as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that in most media, doppelganger characters are usually pretty terrible because in most cases people don't do anything interesting with them, Wario being a major exception. Wario, of course, started off as the main villain of Super Mario Land 2, which was the second ever Mario Game Boy game, but he eventually became so popular that he even got his own game series. Now, what I like about Wario is that he's such a contrast to Mario in every way, shape, or form. Mario is this wholesome, clean-cut, cheerful hero character, while Wario is bulky, sneaky, greedy, and smells of garlic. Now, funny enough, years ago, I just started using Wario whenever we were playing stuff like Mario Kart or Mario Party because he just sticks out like a sore thumb from the rest of the pack. But that's also the reason I really like him. And also, I just love the fact that Wario eventually got his own little side series and side universe of other characters. Granted, most of them are not nearly as memorable as the Mario main series characters, but yeah, I really like Wario. Then, from the Sonic series. Now, Sonic has probably the second best aesthetic look of all the series I'm going to talk about today, but I will stress that this mostly applies to the hero characters, Sonic's friends, who are all great looking characters. In stark contrast, I've always thought that Sonic's bad guys are all pretty interchangeable and forgettable, except for Dr. Robotnik / Eggman. Now, contrary to what some might have thought, my favorite Sonic character is not, in fact, Rouge the Bat, although she's a very close second, the most significant female character from the entire series. Sorry, Amy. But my favorite has always been Knuckles the Echidna. Knuckles was first featured in Sonic 3, and the main reason I really like Knuckles is that he's such a contrasting character to the main protagonist, which is Sonic. Because let's face it, Sonic can be a little bit annoying sometimes. And one of the main things I really like about Knuckles is how utterly done he is always with Sonic. He's much more serious-minded. In the series, he is the last of the Echidna race and the protector of the Master Emerald, which can nullify the power of the Chaos Emeralds, which are these magical artifacts in the Sonic universe. And I just love the fact that Knuckles is just always so grumpy and angry at Sonic, and this always leads to a lot of fun interactions with them. Now, I will also admit that Knuckles is maybe a little too naive for his own good. I mean, literally the storylines of 2 Sonic games involve him getting bamboozled by Dr. Robotnik into thinking that Sonic is out to steal the Master Emerald for some nefarious purpose. This is like the one characteristic of him that I am not a big fan of. I just like Knuckles' temperament. And it is also pretty obvious to me that Knuckles was kind of intended to be a kind of reflection of Sonic, a kind of a slightly modified Sonic look-alike, you know, somewhat like Wario. But unlike all of Sonic's other look-alike characters, all of whom are pretty terrible and interchangeable, I think Knuckles is the one that really stands out the most in a good way. Alright, and then the Mega Man series, which also has an interesting if not a super consistent aesthetic style across the series with dozens of robot master characters, which I have mentioned is probably the #1 reason I like this series. But this time, I'm not gonna pick any of the robot masters. My favorite character from the Mega Man series is Mega Man himself. And yes, I want to stress here, I am strictly speaking of the original series. I'm not gonna be talking about X here. Now, you might find this a little bit surprising because Mega Man's design is pretty plain and simple. In fact, Mega Man, in some cases, can be viewed as a pretty direct ripoff of another iconic anime robot, Astro Boy. But the thing that I do like about Mega Man is that I think he's the perfect base to go up against all these various colorful robot masters. Because the thing to keep in mind is that while his primary color scheme is blue, of course, changes colors whenever he gets the weapons of the robot masters by defeating them. And because of this, Mega Man basically has endless variations on his color scheme, which I think is quite unique. I can't honestly think of another video game character who is this versatile. And yeah, there is something very, very classic about his original design, which I have always loved, and honestly, he's also one of my favorite video game characters to draw. If I ever draw a blanket, I don't know what to draw, for instance, I have been known to just draw a random Mega Man. Alright, and then finally we come to the Donkey Kong series. Now, this one is a bit of a hard one for me to pick because of the playable characters. It's pretty obvious that the two favorites that even come to mind for me are Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong. Diddy Kong, obviously, because he's the lead character of my favorite Donkey Kong game, which is Donkey Kong Country 2. But I think it is pretty obvious to everybody else that Dixie is the real MVP of that title, as well as the sequel, Donkey Kong Country 3. But this is about my favorite game characters, and I am not strictly limiting this to just playable characters. So I have to say, my favorite Donkey Kong character, especially in recent years, has become Cranky Kong. So, Cranky Kong, in case you don't know, is the father of Donkey Kong, and of course his entire shtick in the Donkey Kong games is that he is always complaining about how the games that he is in are in no way, shape, or form as good as the games that he used to be in. The whole premise of the Donkey Kong Country reboot of the Donkey Kong series was basically to bring the series more up to date, and as a result, the characters all went through radical redesigns under Rareware. Diddy Kong was actually supposed to be a redesign of Donkey Kong Jr., but because the redesign ended up becoming so drastically different, the Rare developers eventually kind of dumped this idea and just made Diddy his own original character. And sort of unofficially, this caused a bit of a retcon where Donkey Kong, the one that we now know and love, was supposed to be the original Donkey Kong Jr., and therefore Cranky Kong is supposed to be the old Donkey Kong. Mind you, none of the games actually explicitly state this. It is basically what inspires Cranky's cranky behavior. And honestly, I kind of find Cranky the more and more relatable, especially because, well, you can see I make videos about retro video games, and part of the reason is because I am so utterly unimpressed with modern video games most of the time. And you know what? Cranky is just super funny. The fact that even in 1995, the Rare game developers had enough of a sense of humor to add this meta level to the game where Cranky is just relentlessly shitting on the characters and how the game is just all flash and no substance, to me is just an incredibly hilarious thing. And I honestly kind of wish this more grumpy Cranky would make a return, because while Cranky was a playable character in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, he literally didn't say anything in that. It was just one of the alternate partner characters that you could pick in that game. So there you go, those are my favorite video game characters for this round. Tell me if you want to hear my favorite characters from any other game series. I'm thinking that I might make a follow-up to this video, but I'm not fully sure yet. But anyway, this is TheHande. See you on the next one.